Jeez, the sun's right over my head. Hi, everybody. Let everybody just jump on here. And tonight, the topic for tonight is how do I get my horse to slow down and put his head down? It was sent in to somebody in a Facebook message. We're going to try to cover that the best we can. If you have not been here with us before, then my name's Lindsay. This is Jess. We're here on Tuesday nights at 7:30 answering questions that were sent in by you guys. You can, if you experience any kind of technical difficulties, if it's skipping for you, then the best thing to do is to catch the replay. You can catch the replay afterwards on our Facebook page, but the best thing to do is to make sure that you're signed up for our email list, and then you don't have to go searching anywhere. It will be delivered right to your inbox on Tuesday morning, as well as the heads up for the topic for the next week and your opportunity to send us in any further questions that you have or comments that you have about the topic that we're going to address. You can sign up for that email list by going to hayescofellperformanceHorses.ca//subscribe. And it's also on the cover page. If you're on our Facebook page, the cover page has a button that says sign up. If you push that, you'll be able to get signed up. It's also in the link in our bio on our Instagram page. So you should be able to find it fairly easily and get signed up so that you get that replay sent right into your email. See a bunch of you guys jumping on. Hi, Joy. Hi, Robin. Super. Tammy. The other thing that you guys should be aware of if you're not already is the education page on our website. So hayescofellperformanceHorses.ca has a tab. We have a training tab, a coaching tab. We have an education tab. And under that education tab, if you click on that, it will take you to any of the freebies that we've done. So we have some free coaching videos on there. We also have a search bar where you can type any topic or phrase that you're looking to find information about. So you could type lead change, let's say, and anywhere in any of these Facebook Lives that we have talked about a lead change will pop up with the timestamp. So you don't have to go searching through an entire video. You can just have a quick look and see if what we're talking about is what you're looking for, and you can get that info immediately. If it's not something that we've talked about before, then you can send it in to us and we'll do a whole live about it. Momentum is open right now. We have 9 members. We have one more. We have space for one more. So if you have been thinking about joining our online community, then you can do that. I'll keep it open for just a little bit longer. We can get one more person in there, and then we are going to close it up for quite a while. We've got a bunch of projects on the go, so we're going to close that up and focus on helping our members make progress. If you need more information about Momentum, which is our coaching program where we're delivering videos, exercises, audio lessons, all of the support that you need to keep progressing with your horse between lessons and clinics and horse shows, then you can find that information at momentumhcph.com, or you can shoot me a message and we can see if you think it would be the right fit. Tonight's shout outs. We're doing shout outs to the group of people that came on Friday evening for my equitation clinic. It was a really fun night. Unfortunately, I didn't get any photos, but I wanted to just shout you guys out and say thanks so much for coming to that. That was a great one. And especially thanks to Hannah and Katie. Did you want to say something?
No?
Oh, okay. So actually thanks to Hannah and Katie because they came all the way from Ottawa for that one. And I know that was a big, long drive for you guys. You guys did great, and we really enjoyed having you here. One more shout out to Nikki and Nadine from the Canada Horse podcast for hosting me on their podcast last week. On Thursday it launched, and we talked all about Bob's Custom Saddles. If you have not listened to that yet and you want to try to get your hands on that, you can shoot me a message. I'll add it in the post text here, but you can also find it on, I know they're on Apple Podcasts, the Canada Horse podcast, and I believe it was season 2, episode 36, I think it was. But I wanted to shout out Nikki and Nadine for being such gracious hosts, and really enjoyed that conversation. Tonight, how to get my horse to slow down and put his head down. What are your thoughts on that? What are your best pieces of advice for that?
Well, I think before we get into how to make it happen, I think one thing that needs to be said is low is not always better. And if your horse isn't naturally built to go low, if you put them low, they're not going to move right. The judges aren't going to buy it anyways. They have to go natural, soft, and they'll drop because they're soft. And they'll drop because there's no resistance. Then they'll look proper. I think everybody kind of goes for low-headed without really kind of realizing what, like that there's more to it. You know, it's not about being super low-headed. It's about being comfortable, like that horse relaxed. You know, like the one horse I just got off of is not super low-headed, but he's such a pretty picture. So I think it's more important, you know, to know your horse and get them to where their limitations are, not where we think we want our limitations to be.
Yeah, I feel like this question, we can get this question from a lot of different types of riders. Some of them are riders that are, let's say, at a club show and they see that the horse that's winning the Western Pleasure has a low head and is going slower than them. And so then they want to try to recreate that. We also see it with reiners where they see that a lot of the horses in the, let's say, level 4 finals are really low-headed and, you know, loping super slow in the small slow circle. And I think the answer to the question is actually the same for both, which is what you said, where you don't want to be forcing your horse into an unnatural position. Low doesn't matter. And I think where the misconception for people comes is where they think, oh, that's how that horse is going, so that's how I need to make my horse go. You know, I'll pull its head down, or I'll just make it jog slow all the time and it'll figure it out. In order to go slow and move correctly requires quite a lot of fitness. A lot of times it's also the breed that you have to take the way that your horse is bred into consideration and the amount of training that they've had. So even a well-bred horse that's had a lot of training is going to struggle if they're not fit. If you're trying to take a horse that is or is not bred for it, hasn't had a ton of training, and you're trying to teach them how to go slow, then I think fitness is the biggest thing that you need to focus on, because an unfit horse cannot drive from behind, round their back, then drop their head and be soft through the jaw and the poll. They just flat out cannot do it, or cannot hold it for very long. And then they learn how to use the opposing muscle groups to move in what used to be called an artificial frame. People always used to say artificial frame, but you know, to move in an incorrect way, essentially. Does that make sense?
Now to get them lower and to get them in that position, I think one of the biggest things we always have to do is keep them very confident and soft, not just broke. In the Western world we use broke at the pole, which means just giving it the pole. And I think to truly get one soft and really drooping down there, it has to come across that whole spine. And there's a lot of things that come into play. We lift their bellies a lot so that we take their spine where your saddle is sitting and round it up. We do a lot more with their belly than we do with their face. You know, we'll hold their face, lift their bellies up, and the only spot they can go is down, and it's a softer than if you just pull that head. You have to drive the body up into the bridle to make them droop down. You know, horse can only soften up when they're that.
And a lot of times that actually means speeding up initially. Like for somebody who comes and takes a lesson and says like, I want to teach my horse how to, you know, put his head down and move slower. A lot of times it's actually speeding them up initially, teaching them how to drive from the back end correctly, round their back, be soft into the bridle, and then they can start to slow down. But that's, you know, we can make some progress in one lesson, but that's something that you have to just keep working at all the time and really get your horse fit and comfortable there.
Yeah, and there's a lot, like when we speed them up, we don't mean give them their face and push them forward.
No.
We hold onto their face, bring that chin in, and then bring them legs into a longer stride so that that body is softening them up. And it's always important to go back to, like if somebody says when they're horse shopping or whatever, you know, a low head is very important to me, and we have to go look for that. You buy a low-headed prospect. I mean, when we see babies at the sales, or you know, where we go look for horses, we definitely can see that at a young age, where the breeding in the last 20 years, maybe more than 20 years, has definitely dropped those neck carriages, has definitely, you know, we've went that way. And sometimes we'll see people criticize them. The ones that are natural and good at it are so cool to watch. And the ones that are artificial and get trashy in their feet and they stiffen up through the shoulders and they kind of shuffle, they're not pretty to watch. But every time we're encouraging, so we want to buy the one that's built to do it. We want to buy the one that is very soft and wants to be in that position. If they're in a, I always say a yes sir or yes ma'am mentality as they're loping around, they're giving their chin going, yes sir, where would you like me? You know, that's a huge part of it. And then the more we drive them up into that position, and like Lindsay said, that back gets stronger, their withers, you know, all them muscle groups right from their poll right to their tail and down to their hocks, everything gets stronger. And even their bellies come up and there's muscles in there. That whole body can keep them in carriage and move properly. And the big deciding factor is whether or not, for me, to see whether it's a natural carriage or not, is can they change leads. If they can do it at a lead change, then it's natural. You know, so a lot of it is just we drive them forward to soften them up, and not super fast, but just enough where, you know, maybe a half mile per hour faster, but we push them up into that bridle. They give their chin, and then we let them relax down, and they realize that as soon as they're pushed on to do anything, push to go low, push to go forward, push to change leads, anything where we push them to do, they give that pull, they give all the way through that withers and that back, and they say, yes sir, yes ma'am, how can I do this for you? And those horses will naturally go down lower and into that position, you know, over time.
Yeah, and something that I think a lot of riders do by nature is look at the head, right? Where we can see what's ahead of us, we can see what's in front of us, and we look at the head to see how the horse is moving. And with this, the correct response is it comes from the back. They have to drive with their hind end. Then as they drop their hip down to push themselves, to propel themselves, their back lifts up, the shoulders lighten, the neck arcs, and then they become soft at the poll. So what happens with the head is actually the last part. So when people are saying, how do I get my horse to slow down and how do I get my horse to put his head down? The question should actually be, how do I get my horse to drive underneath himself better? That's where it needs to start. That's where we have to stay focused, right?
How do I get the back up instead of the head down?
You can get the head down and have your horse be terribly uncomfortable on the front end, pulling on the front end, tripping over their front feet, not engaged with the hind end at all. And it's a really good way to trip and fall over or lame your horse up. The other massive benefit to learning how to really get your horse to move correctly is not just for how it'll pay off in the show pen, it's for how it'll pay off for the longevity of the animal. If we want to try to keep them sound over long term, we want to try to engage the hind end that has such a huge amount of muscle there, bigger joints to deal with, instead of just pounding on the knees and the ankles all the time.
I really notice it. I saw a horse on the weekend, rode in a style of that we really haven't shown in 25 years. And the one thing that really stuck out to me was very artificial in the head carriage, not very soft through the back. And what really stuck out to me, because I haven't seen it in many, many years, was how jarring the hocks hit and how jarring the knees didn't roll. They didn't just touch the ground and keep moving. And I'm not gonna lie, I mean, 30 years ago, maybe 28, 29 or so, we all showed pleasure horses like that. And I'm not gonna say I didn't. I did just, we all put them in that position. I wasn't a saint about it. We did it. That's where we thought it was going. We thought it was a good way to go. Looking back, we all kind of said, okay, that wasn't for every horse and that wasn't right. But to see it again after not seeing it for so many years, it really stuck out to me how jarring the knees were on the ground compared to the more modern day, reiner or pleasure horse. That happened to be a pleasure horse. But you take the modern day pleasure horse and their knees just are so much better. They're not slapping the ground and jarring. They're rolling. They stay moving, and then their joints are going to last so much longer. They're going to be healthier as they go. It was neat to. I shouldn't say neat to see. It was neat from the perspective of I hadn't seen that in so many years. So to see it, it really kind of brought back, oh shoot, that's how we used to ride those things. And luckily, the world has changed. We went down that path with reiners and pleasure horses and every discipline. And I think everybody kind of went, that isn't maybe where we like to be. And now the thing is, when we see the ones that are excessively low in the show pen, they're also the ones when you turn them on a lunge line outside, they're just naturally excessively low. And then they can move and they can keep going. And that's something to remember, is ride the horse you have, not the horse you want to have. I think that's such a huge part of that.
So I want to actually back this conversation up again just for a second, because I think there's actually three kind of different types of riders that we see that ask this question. There's the reiners who want their horses lower and loping really slow and, trying to get credit on their circles. There's the people that are maybe like, doing some club shows and have identified that other horses go slower and have their heads lower. And then there's also riders who, their horses, they get on and their horses just go fast and stick their heads up in the air. And that, the answer is still the same there, that we need to teach the horse to drive from behind. We need to make sure that we can take a hold of their face and bring it in. But I think the other important things for all of the, different riders that have this question, but especially for that one, is to make sure that you have well-fitting equipment, because if you have anything that is making the horse feel uncomfortable, they will hollow their back out and run to get away from it. We don't often realize that that's what they're doing, but if their equipment doesn't fit and they're hollowing out their back and trying to, go fast, sometimes they're uncomfortable. They're trying to get away from that discomfort. Same thing with a poorly fitted bridle or bit. Same thing with a rider who has rough hands or a poor seat. So rough hands is an easy one. If your hands are, bumping your horse's face when they try to go faster, then they're going to brace. They're going to use these muscles down here, and they're going to brace into the bridle, and they're going to lift their head up to protect themselves, to protect their mouth. And if you have a rider who's bouncing on the horse's back a lot, those two long muscles across the horse's back are going to be sore. So they're going to hollow out their back, and they're going to, again, probably speed up to try to get away from it. So making sure that your equipment is fitted properly and is comfortable, making sure that you are working as best you can to develop your seat and to develop your hands so that you're not creating that discomfort for your horse, I think is really really important. And then the other thing for, I guess, all of us is teaching our horses to have a rhythm. So especially a horse that likes to speed up and put its head up needs to be given the rhythm that we do want the horse to take so that they know what they should be doing. So that means with your body, giving the horse the rhythm that you want in the trot or the posting trot or the lope or whatever gait it is that you're asking them to do. Sometimes you can get your horse to just slow down just by slowing down your rhythm. That's all they need. I hope that answers that question. I don't know the person who sent that question in, so I hope that answers that question for her. Anything else you can think of?
If you had a horse that showed up on your doorstep and the person said, "This thing's ewe neck, sticks his head out like this," I always call them the Pez dispenser horses. They flip their head back and look at you.
The Pez dispenser, yeah.
What would you do?
It's not a good look. I feel like the most common advice, the most common sense advice, as well as the most common advice, is have their teeth checked. That's sometimes something that people forget, is to have their teeth checked, because discomfort and pain most of the time are the reason why a horse will do that. And then beyond that is just they don't know better. They haven't been taught better. They're not being guided better. What would I do if I had one of those? I would check to see if there was any pain, if there seemed to be any pain in the horse. So like check the teeth, check the equipment. I might even put it on the lunge line to, make sure that there's nothing unusual going on there. My go-to piece of equipment would actually be the featured tack item of the week. So if you're on our email list and you got an email this morning, we talked about German martingales. My go-to would be a large twisted snaffle with a German martingale. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of going to a martingale without going to a smooth snaffle or just a regular set of reins first, but I'm a big believer in the German martingale, and I think for most people, almost everybody that comes here, they do very well in those. It helps to create the shape that we want the horse to be in. It just helps to eliminate some of the confusion there, to help show them where they need to be, so that it's quicker to help them build that position, build their top line, build the strength that they need to hold themselves there. I'd probably put one of those on. I'd probably take the horse out and just hold my hands steady, like take a hold of their face and hold my hands steady and drive them forward off of my leg and set a rhythm with my body and let them figure out where they're supposed to be. That'd be my thing. I mean, it depends on a lot of things, right? What age they are, what their background is, what the rider wants to do. It depends on a lot of stuff, but just generally, that'd be what I would want to do. You?
Buy a new horse.
Yeah.
No, I think
Even good horses can do that, though, if they're,
definitely a soundness check first, and I think that's with any
Yeah.
problem. Mm-hmm. And then the very basic part of horse training can be summed up so quickly in make the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy. Gets into that. You put their head in there, you hang on to that face when it's up. The German helps you, because once that horse flips his head up so hard and gets into there, now you're not onto his jaw, you're into his, just onto his lips, and that's useless. So once you have that German to help you, I'll lunge one. I'll, bring their head up, tie that rein up just a little bit so that German's working, and then this week I had one, a 2-year-old, that started to kind of push up like that, and I just put him in the round pen for a little bit, chased him forward. He found it easy to figure out, with me behind him instead of on top of him. And when he gets up there, I drive him forward, drive him into that bridle, make the wrong thing hard, and then once he relaxes, I let him relax. And I think that's everything with horse training, just make the wrong thing hard and the good thing easy, and they will figure it out. Mm-hmm. And then, joking aside, buy a new horse.
Yeah. Depends on how bad it is and what it is. If the horse is not going to work for what you're trying to achieve, then you gotta call
and that's
it.
a big thing too.
And you're a major horse snob also. Buy a new one. So. Just buy a new one.
I will work with anything. Joking aside, I will work.
Okay.
I will work with them. I don't have to like them, but I can work with them.
So.
Somebody said, "How do you know which?"
Kim is saying, make the rhythm with your feet or your seat. Everything, your
all
whole
together.
body. Your hip is always the most important piece. Shout out to equitation clinic people who hear me say that all the time. Your seat is always the most important piece. It's the most weight you have. It's the most contact you have with your horse's body. It is the piece that has the most ability to influence your horse. So you want to create the rhythm with your whole body that you want them to take. And then you want to keep telling them what that is. So if we take that, make the wrong thing feel hard and the right thing feel easy, if we take that one step further, you need to be telling your horse what they should be doing. You don't want to think about it being reactive. You want to think about it being proactive. Show them what they should be doing and they will do it if they're good. Reception. Lisa, thanks for the shout out on the reception. Glad that the reception's great. No lag time. Yeah, first time ever. Hannah meant to ask over the weekend, since I'm new with the German Martingale, how do you know which loop to use? So we actually have a Facebook Live like this where we talked about how to fit the German Martingale and how to use it. So you can go onto the education page on our website and type that in, and there's a whole video where Jesse's actually hooking it up and showing you how to adjust it and explaining all of that. The short version is start on the loosest one, and then I would say, because I've seen your horse and it's pretty big, I don't think you're going to have to go to the third hole. I would start on the loosest one and then go to the middle one.
And part of that answer too is depending on what you're doing with your horses. Mm-hmm. When I start, let's say 2-year-olds on cattle, and I know I'm going to draw them back and bring them over, I will tighten up that German just a little bit so that they learn to really roll in with that neck and really roll back into it. Mm-hmm. And then as they get more broke, I can let them out. And then if they take advantage of the situation, then I can just simply bring that back one hole. You do have to experiment with it a little bit. Start on the loose, get them a little used to it. Let them realize what that does.
And you don't want to, I feel like you don't want to go too short too fast, especially for a horse like Hannah's that isn't used to being held into the bridle and driven forward off the leg at the same time. She'll either bring her chin in and slow down her body, or she'll drive forward with her body, but she wants her chin. So I wouldn't go too short on the German. I would start on the loosest loop and make sure that you can get her to drive forward and you can put her where you want her, and then you could start to shorten it up once you know that she understands that you're gonna hold her chin in and drive her forward, and she still has to move forward off of your leg. Did we answer that?
Made sense to me.
I don't know. If this helps you, if you go out and you ride and this helps you, I hope that you'll send us a message and let us know, because that's the coolest. That was the coolest. When was that, a week or two ago, when Louise was here, and she said that she listened to the one about herd-bound horses, and when she was done listening to it, she felt like she could go do it, and she went out to the barn and she went and worked her horse. I think that's the coolest, when you guys are motivated to go ride and feeling like, feeling empowered, feeling like you can go do it. You have a plan, you can go try it. Okay, if anybody has any more questions, we will come back to the comments later and try to make sure that we get those answered for you. If you have another topic or question for us that you'd like us to do a live on, just send it. You can send it, in Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger. You can just send me an email at hazelcofalph@gmail.com. Like I said, momentum is open for probably realistically be a couple more days by the time I get back from Michigan and get it all closed up. So we are headed to a horse show this weekend. And if you have questions about that, shoot me a message, because it's a great program. People are making lots of progress in there, and there's loads and loads of support for your riding. If that's something you're looking for, shoot me a message. We'll talk about it, see if it's a good fit. Tammy, do you always use a German with a snaffle or ever a shank bit? I don't. Do you?
Well, the German can be used with a shank bit. We'll use that's very similar when we go to a shank bit, because we'll just take one of our shank bits, and somebody loves this all the time, and we always joke about, when you go to change leads, a lot of times we'll put a horse in a set of draw reins, and if they're broke enough that you're riding in the shank bit, we'll leave them in the shank bit. We put a draw rein on them, so you have the same effect as the German, but they're easier to snap up for us. The Germans are fine to use with a shank bit. It's just, for us, it's just a little easier just to snap that on real quick. I much prefer the German on my...
And the draw reins are a little more complicated to ride in.
Oh, I can get so messed up in them.
I like
the Germans. Keep it
I
simple.
like the draw reins, but I don't ride in them all the time.
No, but just
we're just laughing because I like to go to that.
It's our joke.
I don't ride in it all the time, and I don't suggest riding in them all the time. I don't think that's healthy for horses.
3 days max.
Yeah, 5.
For me, it's 3.
5.
But I think that's another one too. Is the Germans, to me, are such a, like, you can ride in a snaffle and draw reins, or two reins or whatever. I just find it so complicated when I'm trying to just think of where them feet are. That's why I like the Germans, and you can put them in a shank bit. Mm-hmm. By the time I'm working on, usually it's lead changes, where I just want to eliminate that little bit of hop with the front of their neck. I'll put them in the draw reins. By that point, when I'm riding, I'll actually let go of the regular reins, just use the draw reins, and they're broke enough that I trust them, that, we're just working on a little part. We're not, will I have to handle this thing around a corner or whatever. By that point, they're broke enough to go, and I don't have to worry about 2 sets of reins. I am the most uncoordinated with 2 sets of reins. That's why I like Germans.
I feel like you can't really say that. I mean, I know what you're saying about but you're not the most uncoordinated, because you can work the flag while you're riding a horse. That requires a fair bit of coordination. Work the remote on the flag, work the horse.
See, I don't tell you when I get uncoordinated on the flag. I come into the house and I just, it worked great.
It was great.
I don't tell you when I have to stop and go, what the heck?
I did not get tangled up and go the wrong way.
At no point did any of the girls that helped me have to come out and save me.
The rescue.
This is right, this is left, all that stuff. I never tell you that stuff.
Oh boy. Okay, we are going to let you guys go. Thanks for being here with us tonight. If you have questions about any of this, make sure you leave them for us in the comments, and we'll come back and revisit those. If you have another topic, send it in. If you feel so inclined to share our page or this live with a friend, or leave us a review on our Facebook page, we always appreciate that. We always appreciate hearing that stuff from you guys, and that's what helps us attract such great customers. Thanks for being here with us, you guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.